Good evening. This is Newsfirst Primetime News, where the people come first. And I'm Sandra Ferdinando. Joining me tonight with our sign language interpretation is Brian De Cruz. Let's now take a look at the headlines for tonight.
Newsfirst headlines. Main sponsor.
Valuable Finance, best finance company.
Return back the looted money. People's protests continue. Refrain from damaging property. A request from the Defence Secretary. Protests near Parliament. Security around Parliament tightened. 42 government MPs sit independently in Parliament.
අද අපිත් මේ පාර්ලිමේන්තුවට ප්‍රකාශ කරා බහුතරයක් තිබෙන්නේ අපේ ආණ්ඩුවට. බහුතරයක් පාර්ලිමේන්තුවේ තියෙන්නේ අපේ ආණ්ඩුවට. බහුතරයක් පාර්ලිමේන්තුවේ අපේ ආණ්ඩුවට නැත්නම් ඔබතුමාලට එය ඉදිරිපත් කරන්න පුළුවන්කම තිබෙනවා.
Opposition leader says he won't join a coalition. Power must only be obtained through the people's mandate. Finance Minister Ali Sabri resigns. Dr. Nandulal Veerasinghe accepts to be appointed as the new central bank governor. Former Minister Namal Rajapaksa requests the court to grant bail to fly overseas.
Newsfirst headlines. Main sponsor.
Valuable Finance, best finance company.
Starting off with news here at home, protests are being staged in many parts of the country against the crisis that has affected the people. We begin our coverage opposite the Shangri-La Hotel in Colombo, where Navesh Gunasekara met with the protesters.
Despite the heavy rains, the people have still taken it to the streets. Today I'm currently here at a goal-faced green opposite Shangri-La Colombo, where a people's protest is currently being staged.
Every single thing is frustrating. Like, some people can afford it, but not everybody, because they don't really care about us. None of them really care about us. So this needs to stop. This has to stop. Something has to change.
Some protesters marched from the University of Colombo to Temple Trees this evening. Newsfirst Nisal Surarachi met with these protesters.
Students of the universities of Sri Lanka have come to Colombo today, and they marched around Colombo, and right now they have surrounded the Prime Minister's official residence in Vijayarama Mawatha in Colombo.
මහත්තයෝ අපි පෙන්නුවේ සරසවි ශිෂ්‍යයාගේ ශක්තිය අපි පෙන්නුවේ සරසවි ශිෂ්‍යයාගේ අයිය මේ තමයි ලාංකික ශිෂ්‍ය ව්‍යාපාරයේ හැකියාව.
A protest was held near the entry road to the parliament for the first time since the massive wave of protests began in the country. Security personnel set up barricades at the Poldua junction before the protests began to prevent the protesters from moving forward. Many VIP vehicles had to turn back from the barricades due to mounting protests by the people.
කියන්න බෑ හරිම වේදනාවයි බෑ තවත් කියන්න පෞරුෂයක් බින්දිනවනේ මේ කොල්ලෙක් ඇටියට මට හරි වේදනාවයි වැඩ නෑනේ මම බදුත් ගෙවනවා කීයක් කර රජයට ඊපස්සේ 2019 දී ඇමරිකාවෙන් එකෙක් ආනයනය කරලා ඒවිලා සර් කෙනෙක් මේ රට හදයි කියලා හිතුවා ඒක උපරිම පිස්සු කියලා අද පිස්සෙක් බවට පත් වෙලා තියෙනවා මිනිස්සු පිස්ස කියන මට්ටමට පත් වෙලා තියෙනවා ඒකේ අවසන් ප්‍රතිඵලය මොකද සමස්ත රාජ්‍යම කඩාගෙන වැටිලා අවුරුදු ගාණක් කොරා කාපියකින් 125ක් එකෙක් පටන් ගනින් ඔය මුළු 225ම දෙනවා
Gampa District Forest Officer Devani Jayatilaka, who opposed the destruction of mangroves last year, also joined the protest. Many artists also supported the demonstration. We took to the streets to end this area immediately. We are respectfully requesting all of them to resign with respect.
Please listen to the voice of the people. Our voice is often considered to be important only during elections. But after that, they do whatever they want as a family. What will ultimately happen to the children of those who voted for them? No one is bothered about what will happen to our mothers and fathers.
We want Gota, we want.
Those who campaign saying we want Gota are the ones who are saying go home Gota. That shows how he has performed during the last 2 years. The ministerial appointments that were made yesterday clearly show that he hasn't become any better.
මං කියනවා ඔය ජනාධිපතිට ඔය අගමැතිට ඔය ඇමති මඩුල්ලට ඔය පුටුවල ඉන්න අයිතියක් නෑ තවත් මෙච්චර ජනතාවක් හඬන් නගද්දි බහින්න පුටුවලින් හැබැයි බැස්සට යන්න දෙන්නේ නෑ මේකේ ඔවුන් අපේ සල්ලි ගත්තේ ඔවුන් රටට අවශ්‍ය සල්ලි ගත්තේ ඒවා අපි ලබා ගන්න ඕන නේද
Protesters continued their demonstration even amidst the heavy rain. They demanded to meet the parliamentarians who were leaving the complex. However, it was reported that the parliamentarians had left the area through alternate routes. Janata Vimukti Peramuna leader Andrew Kumar Desai Nayaka responded to people as he left the complex through a different route.
ඉඩම් අක්කර ඉඩම් ස්ථාන 35ක මේ පවුල නමින් තියෙන ඉඩම් හරි ගමු අපි අය ලියපු අය නේද ඒව මේ රටේ ජනතාවට අපව පවර ගන්නවා ඒ පිළිබඳ විශ්වාස කරනවා අපි ජනතාව ඉදිරියට ආවේ මෙයා විතරයි අද ඔක්කොම හැංගියන්ගේ ගියා ඔක්කොම හැංගියන්ගේ ගියා මෙයාත් පිටිපස්ස දොරේ මේ හොරකමට රේ වෙවිලා තියෙනවා අද ඕගොල්ලෝ මේ සටනට අවිලා තියෙනවා මේ සටන අපේ ජීවිතේ හැමදාමත් කරපු සටන මේ සටනත් එක අපි ඔක්කොම එකතු වීම පිළිබඳව දැන් ජෙනරේෂන් එක වෙනස් මේක වෙනස් මේ ජෙනරේෂන්
People gathered at the exit points at the back of the parliamentary complex as parliamentarians began leaving.
ඉන්ටර්නෙට් නෑ පාඩම් ගන්න විදියක් නෑ කිසිම දෙයක් නෑ පොඩි ළමයිට පිළිටි ගන්න අපි ඔයාලා වෙනුවෙන් තමයි ගහගන්නේ අපිට ගන්න දෙන්න එපා බොරු වැඩක් ඔයාලා හොරමන් ක්‍රීලට වැඩ කරන්නේ නෙමෙයිනේ උරුන් දුන්නේ මම අපි නිකම් පුරමන් මේ අපි හැමෝටම
Some parliamentary officials had to leave amidst tight security.
Police took action against a group of unidentified masked armed bikers.
As security was tightened around Parliament, 42 government MPs announced that they will sit independently in Parliament. We all know that there is massive objection towards the government today. The Parliament must realize this. If this is not understood properly, the Parliament would not do justice to the people. Therefore, this team decided to form its own unique group in Parliament. I invite everyone to stand for this. The person who is responsible for the prevailing crisis in the country is sitting in the front row right now. The first condition in changing this situation is to remove the current administration. An interim administration must be established. 10 parties in Parliament operated independently during the recent past. 16 MPs in those 10 parties are continuing to function independently. After appointing an interim government, it gives 6 to 12 months for the cabinet to solve these issues without lying to the people. If an election is held, all politicians will be chased away. Therefore, this is not the time to hold an election. The Sri Lanka Freedom Party doesn't accept the decision to impose an emergency law. Democracy must prevail in the country. Moreover, the 20th Amendment of the Constitution must be abolished. Considering all these matters, the 14 MPs of the Sri Lanka Freedom Party must function independently in Parliament from today.
මේ 14 දෙනාම අද සිට අපි පාර්ලිමේන්තුව තුල ස්වාධීනව කටයුතු කරනවායි කියන එක කියන්නට ඕන.
ඉන්න නම් ප්‍රමාණය කියවන්න මම ජෝන් සෙනවිරත්න.
Myself, MP Susil Premajayantha, former Minister John Seneviratna, MP Chandima Veerakodi, MP Nalin Fernando, MP Nimal Lansa, MP Sudarshani Fernando Pulle, MP Priyankara Jayaratna, MP Roshan Ranasinghe, MP Arundika Fernando and Jayantha Herath will sit independently.
තමයි අනන්‍ය වෙනම කණ්ඩායමක් හැටියට කටයුතු කරන්න සූදානම්.
බොහොම ස්තුතියි. ඔව්.
Mr. Speaker, MP Andra Priyadarshana Yapa included my name. Please don't add me in that list yet. I am of the stance that neither the government nor the opposition presented solutions to the economic crisis. Therefore, I decided to function independently in Parliament. Give this to the diaspora, the US or India. I speak on behalf of the people. I don't speak for money.
මේ පාර්ලිමේන්තුවේ ආණ්ඩුවේ ඉන්නවද විපක්ෂ ඉන්නවද මේ හැමදේටම වඩා වටින්නේ ජනතාවට සේවයක් කරන්න පුළුවන්.
Regardless of whether I stand with the opposition or the government, I will stand with the side from which I can serve to the people. If I make a decision, I will announce it myself.
මේ තීරණය මගේ වචනයෙන් තමයි එළියට එන්නේ.
බොහොම ස්තුතියි.
Tamil National Alliance MP President's Council M.A. Sumandiran says the decision to impose emergency laws must be approved by Parliament.
There is a notification tabled today on the proclamation of emergency. Under the Constitution, this must be placed before Parliament and approved or disapproved at the earliest possible opportunity. I want to ask the government to place this tomorrow for Parliament to decide whether Parliament will approve of this or not, because otherwise they are misusing the powers by allowing it to remain for 14 days and then lapse. Even now we can suspend the standing orders and place the proclamation of emergency for a vote in this Parliament now.
There is no point in seeking approval for laws for which there are no ministers. Therefore, let's stop this and debate on the situation in the country. Party leaders had not supported the TNA's call to seek parliamentary approval for the emergency laws. Leaders of other political parties had not supported the TNA's call to seek parliamentary approval for the emergency laws.
මහපාරේ හඬට පටහැනි හඬක් මේ සභාව තුල තිබිය යුතු නැහැ.
We don't want a voice in this house that is contrary to the voice of the people. Everyone in the country are putting forth one demand. What are they saying? They are saying that the country can't run like this and that this group is incapable of governing. If various proposals are being put forward in Parliament while ignoring the stance of the people, then it's no surprise that they are rejecting all 225 parliamentarians. The time has come to change the executive presidency. We must represent the people's stance here. What is the stance of the people? They want a change. The government must change. They are calling on the government, including the president, to resign. I am speaking on behalf of everyone on my side.
ජනාධිපතිවරයාගේ ඉඳලා මේ ආණ්ඩුව ඉල්ලාස් වෙන්න ඕන. ඒකයි ඇත්ත කතාව. ඒකයි ඇත්ත කතාව. මේ සමගි ජන බලවේගයේ සමගි ජන සන්ධානය.
Anyone can raise their objections if they oppose that. There is democracy on my side. There won't be disciplinary inquiries and expulsions for doing that. We won't accept interim ministerial positions. We won't use this as an opportunity to receive ministerial portfolios. They are playing a game of musical chairs with these positions. If they are moving forward with the correct vision by speaking the truth and by doing something that will benefit the 22 million people, then we will support that. Our side isn't greedy for ministerial positions or to become president or prime minister. If we come to power, we will do that with the people's blessings. Take steps to abolish the executive presidency this week. Let's stop shuffling the same pack of cards and unite based on a policy.
විධායක ජනාධිපති ක්‍රමය අහෝසි කරන ක්‍රියාවලිය මේ සතියේ ගෙන්න ඔලුගඩි මාරු සෙල්ලමෙන් අපි ඉවත් වෙලා අවංකවම ප්‍රතිපත්තියක් මත එකතු වෙමුයි කියලා මම ප්‍රකාශ කරනවා. ස්තුතියි.
එතන තියෙන්නේ ගෝඨා go home කියලා. යන්න රාජපක්ෂලා ගෙදර යන්න කියලා.
The people are chanting Gota go home. They want the Rajapakshas to go away after returning the wealth that they looted. In that case, let's unite and move forward. Let's protect the people's lives. Don't allow this country to be destroyed. Resign and go home and protect the people's lives. This is not based on our political objectives. We must unite because we need to stand on behalf of the people.
මේ රටේ මිනිස්සුන්ගේ ජීවිත ටික රකිමු අපි. අපේ දේශපාලන අරමුණු නෙමෙයි. අපි මිනිස්සු වෙනුවෙන් ඉන්න ඕනේ. එකතු වෙන්න ඕනේ.
අපි පිළිගන්නවා මිනිස්සු අමාරුවෙන් ඉන්නේ රටේ අර්බුදයක් තියෙනවා. මිනිස්සු පාරට බෑලා.
We admit that the people are in difficulty and that there is a crisis. People are on the streets. A protest was held outside my house in Rajagiri saying they don't want Gotabaya or Sajid. The people are saying that they don't need the 225 MPs altogether. Some parliamentarians on our side decided to sit independently. That is their democratic right. We are requesting you to stand united first. There are several views. First, your side said that the executive presidency must be abolished and the position be given to your side. I am asking all of you to represent one stance. Otherwise, the country will become more unstable.
ඔයාලකට නෑ ඔබතුමාලා එකමතයකට ඇවිල්ලා කතා කරන්න කියනවා නැත්නම් තවත් රට අස්ථාවර වෙන එක විතරයි වෙන්න කියන එක තමුන්නාසලට මතක් කරගන්න.
රොෂාන් රණසිංහ මන්ත්‍රීතුමා
ගෝඨා go home කියන එක පළමුවෙන්ම මුළු රටටම ඇහෙන්න කෑ ගහලා කිව්වේ මම.
We were the first ones who said Gota go home, but Mahinda didn't listen to that. He gave the job to Gotabaya Rajapaksa since he wanted someone from the family. I wish to say that former President Mahinda Rajapaksa must bear responsibility for this. Don't get angry with me. The curse of the April 21st attacks has now befallen us. Don't deny that. The curse will affect even those who aren't involved. God's curse has befallen those who were involved. The people are saying Gota go home. The image of Mahinda Rajapaksa, who contributed a great deal to this country, has been destroyed. Once the king started wearing the crown, God's curse struck our country. They even imprisoned Fonseca.
මේ මහින්ද රාජපක්ෂ මහත්තයාගේ සම්පූර්ණ විනාශ කරලා දැම්මා. රජුට ඔටුන්න ගාගත්තට පස්සේ දේව සාපේ වැදුනා. ඉතින් ඔව් මේ පොන්සේක මහත්තයා හිරේ දැම්මා.
අපි දැක්කා ඇවන්ගාඩ් කුක්කා පැන්න රටින් පවුලත් අරගෙන පැන්නා. දැන් මේ විදියට
We saw that the avant-garde chairman fled the country with his family. We can't allow them to escape when the ship is sinking. They must be punished for looting the money of the people and causing the downfall of this country. Our slogan reads, "Henchmen beware." Everyone linked to them must bear responsibility for this. We will do this one day. They are speaking about an interim government. We don't want that. The people want all of you to resign. The people should receive the change they want.
ඒ කියන්නේ නංගි පෙන්නලා අක්ක දෙන්න හදනවා දැන් ආපහු. ඒ જાති හරියන්නේ නැහැ. ජනතාව කියන්නේ තමුන්නාන්සලා ගෙදර යන්න කියලා ජනතාව ඉල්ලන වෙනස අනිවාර්යෙන් ලැබෙන්න ඕනේ. ඒකට අපි ආශිර්වාද කරනවා.
විශේෂයෙන්ම සඳහන් කරනවා කැබිනට් මණ්ඩලය 4 දෙනෙක්ගෙන් යුතුව.
The President appointed 4 ministers to the cabinet. We informed about our resignations to the President through the Prime Minister. The President hasn't appointed the rest of the ministers so that he can discuss with other parties and make a decision. The 225 MPs can't shirk their responsibilities. All of us have been appointed with votes of the people. If someone says the President or the government must resign, it must happen in a democratic work. There is no practice of changing governments outside a democratic framework in our country. If we set a president by doing that, then our future will have to experience bloodshed.
අපිට ප්‍රජාතන්ත්‍රවාදී රාමුවෙන් පිට ආණ්ඩු මාරු කිරීමේ සංස්කෘතියක් අපේ රටේ නැහැ ගරු කතානායකතුමනි. ඒ පූර්වාදර්ශයක් බවට පරිවර්තනය කරොත් ඊළඟ පරම්පරාවට ඉතුරු වෙන්නේ ලේ විලක් පමණයි.
ජනාධිපතිතුමා ව්‍යවස්ථාවට විරුද්ධව කටයුතු කරන්නේ නැහැ. ජනාධිපතිතුමා
The President won't act against the Constitution. Based on the Constitution, the President and all of us said that we hold the majority in Parliament. If you don't have a majority, then you would be able to put forward a proposal to dissolve Parliament and move for an election. If you have a majority, then you can inform the President of your desire to form the government.
ජනාධිපතිතුමාගෙන් දන්වන්න පුළුවන්. තවදුරටත් ආරාජික තත්ත්වයට දායක වෙන්න එපා.
ඒ නිසා මේ ආණ්ඩුවේ ඔලුගෙඩි පිළිබඳ ප්‍රශ්නයක් වූ ජනාධිපතිවරයාට පැවරී තිබෙන බලතල පිළිබඳ ප්‍රශ්නයක් නෙවෙයි.
This isn't a problem of changing positions or the President's powers. The problem is that the people don't trust this administration or the President anymore. This is why the ministers have to resign. That is why the President is being urged to resign. The people don't have faith in the proposed interim government anymore. These are the only options available in the Constitution. We are ready for a discussion discussion on the alternatives that are not in the constitution. We can then amend the constitution with a 2/3 majority. This will give some time to form a government that has the support of the people.
ගරු සභාපතිතුමනි ස්ථාවර භාවයකට ලයා හැකි වන්නේ අපේ රටේ ජනතාව පූර්ණ වශයෙන් බලාපොරොත්තු තියෙන විශ්වාසය තබන ජනවරමක් තිබෙන ආණ්ඩුවක් ගොඩනගා ගැනීම.
State Minister of Estate, Housing and Community Infrastructure Jeevan Thondaman resigned from his position today. He spoke to the media on the reasons for his resignation.
As a party, a decision had been taken that we are withdrawing our support and that I will be resigning my minister post. The youth are protesting, and being a youth representative in parliament, I should set an example and I should lead by example. It's only through these resignations also the government is understanding that people are unhappy. Yesterday we had asked, what is our road to recovery? And a suggestion was given. But at the end of the day, I have to answer to my people. And if the people are not happy with that particular plan, then what is the point of me supporting a government that is bringing forward that plan? We need a expert team that will tell us how to go forward. Everybody in parliament is talking about, do we have 113, do we not have 113? They are not talking about the issues faced by the people. And till they don't address those issues, people will be on the road only. So right now we are in a deadlock situation. So to come out of this, people need to put politics aside and come forward.
Government parliamentarian Basil Rajapaksa commented on the government's future plan today.
තමයි පක්ෂේ වෙනස්ව හිතන්න බියනවන්නේ. අපි වෙනස්ව හිතලා පක්ෂය බින් කරලා ඒ වගේම දැනුත් එහෙමයි.
As people continue to face several problems, including the shortage of essential goods, many parliamentarians have their own concerns on the protests opposite their residences.
ජාතික ජනබලවේගය පෙරටුගාමි.
The names of the Jatik Janabalawegya, Frontline Socialist Party and the Sri Lanka Freedom Party are surfacing over the attack on my residence. The incident was filmed by SLFP supporters. There is a political motive behind attacking my residence. This is not an ordinary protest by the people. I am requesting the Executive President, who is also the Defence Minister, to exercise his powers against this violence. If the IGP is not doing his job properly, change him. The IGP is acting in a two-phased manner. I have been trying to contact the IGP many times over last night's incident, but I have not been able to reach him. A boy working near my house had gone there, but don't count that as an involvement of the Sri Lanka Freedom Party. Enforce the law against anyone who is involved, but I won't allow such acts to be carried out from my end. I contacted my party office in the Polonnaruwa district. No one is involved in this from my party. If they were involved, I won't hesitate to tell that either. You are part of the government. There is a defence ministry. Conduct the necessary investigations and table a report. If anyone is assuming that we can be silenced by attacking us, then we wish to say that they can't do that. If there is a political link to this, let's sort it out at the election. I, along with the MPs on my side, have decided that we will ensure our security. Don't allow this to spiral out of control. Some might be assuming that being patient is cowardly. Don't assume that. If the MPs sitting independently want to dissolve parliament, then sign the proposal on that. Let's sort it out that way. They pelted stones at my house. A group from the Rajaratna University had also arrived. These attacks are being carried out by some mobs. There is a political conspiracy behind this. A new government will be formed by any party again. The people will then take to the streets asking the leader at that time to go home. Some might be happy after attacking the houses of parliamentarians, but what message is this giving? The same thing will affect the other side as well. There are drug racketeers and thieves who are involved in this together with the underworld. Therefore, we will take steps to ensure our security.
Demonstrations have been held opposite the President's office and also the residence of many parliamentarians and ministers. People who were protesting in many areas of Colombo converged outside the President's office.
Security was tightened around the residence of former Minister Basil Rajapaksa in Battaramulla. Our correspondent reported that 10 people have been hospitalized after they were injured during protest outside the Carlton House in Tangol. Police had used tear gas and water cannons to disperse the protesters. Injured protesters claimed that the group, clad in civil attire, had attacked them.
Uniform එක කවුරුවත් හිටියේ නැහැ. දැන් සිවිල් හිටපුවා තමයි. මම දැක්ක කියන්නේ මේ රට්ටයක් පාරින් ඉන්න රට්ටියට ගහගහයි. අඩුව කියන්නේ? අඩුවක් කියන එක නිකන් යකඩ පිටක් වගේ. පොලිසිය කාටවත් ජෙහුවේ නැහැ.
A Defender Jeep had met with an accident in Tangol during the protest. Cricket stumps were seen on the road near the incident. CCTV footage showed two men clad in civil attire searching a protester and taking him away from the location. Our correspondent reported that the man had been filming the group that were carrying poles. The residence of parliamentarian Roshan Ranasinghe had been heavily damaged during a protest. Several banners had been damaged during a protest opposite the residence of State Minister Shehan Semasinghe yesterday. Protesters had marched to the residence of State Minister Duminda Disanayake. They had damaged the Sri Lanka Freedom Party's office at the location. Some protesters had marched to the residence of the soothsayer called Nyanakka in Anuradhapura. Our correspondent reported that police, special task force and army officers along with anti-riot squad personnel had been stationed for security around her residence. Protesters had also caused heavy damages to the office of State Minister Channa Jayasumana. A hotel and residence of former Minister S.M. Chandrasena had also been attacked by protesters. Our correspondent reported that the Sri Lanka Podujana Peremuna's Anuradhapura district office and Anuradhapura Mayor H.P. Somadas's residence had also come under attack. A protest was organised opposite the residence of former Minister Pavitra Vanniyarachchi. Protesters gathered for the second time outside the office of former Minister Rohita Begunawardena in Kalutara last evening. They had been initially dispersed in the afternoon. Residents of Hambantota held a protest by obstructing the entry roads leading to the Mattala airport last night.
අපිට ආරංචියක් ආවා මේ රටේ ධනය කෝටි ප්‍රකෝටි ගණන් හොරගම් කරගත්ත ලොකු හොරෙක් මෙතනින් පිට වෙන්න එනවා කියලා ඒ හොරා මෙතනින් පණින එක නවත්තර කරගන්න තමයි අපි අද මෙතෙන්ට එකතු වුනේ.
Defence Secretary retired Major General Kamal Gunaratne has urged the public to refrain from damaging personnel and public property.
කණ්ඩායම් දෙකක් ක්‍රියාත්මක වන බව අපිට නිරීක්ෂණය වෙනවා.
We can observe that there are two groups at present. One group is conducting peaceful protests and dispersing peacefully, while the other group is deliberately engaging in violent protests, causing damage to public and private properties and disrupting the day-to-day lives of the people on main roads and in public places. Even when a state of emergency is in place, we should accept that the people's right to engage in peaceful protests must be protected. However, acting like this under the guise of peaceful protests and peace while damaging private property demonstrate that this campaign has gone beyond the framework of democracy due to its violent nature. In some areas, protesters were seen riding motorcycles and hurling stones and petrol bombs at homes and shops. Several other groups had engaged in robberies yesterday. In some instances, thieves had robbed the homes of people who had gone for protests. The Defence Ministry, Public Security Ministry, Tri-Forces and the police will always remain committed to protect the people while monitoring these protests.
ආරක්ෂක අංශත් පොලිසියත් පසුබට නොවන බවත් අවධාරණය කළ යුතුයි.
Meanwhile, the Bar Association of Sri Lanka has requested the public to express their dissent peacefully without targeting private property or causing destruction to property. The BASL has emphasized that such conduct is criminal and can lead to protesters being charged in courts of law. The BASL said it unconditionally condemned such criminal acts and called upon authorities to take necessary action according to law while safeguarding the rights of those who protest peacefully. BASL said the protests have been aggravated by the conduct of the authorities, including the declaration of the state of emergency, the ban on social media, and the failure to come up with an acceptable solution to the demands of the people.
We have more news in store for you, but first a quick commercial break. Stay tuned.
Valuable Finance, best finance company.
Tech Bus, launched to increase the tech know-how of Sri Lankan students, concludes on a successful note. Organized by SLIT Institute.
Tech Bus.
Main sponsor.
SLIT Knowledge University, challenging convention and redefining education.
Welcome back. Continuing in more local news, the shortage of diesel continues to be seen in many parts of the country. The Ceylon Electricity Board is now imposing power cuts for about 6 hours, and our cameras captured the plight of the people who have been affected by several problems.
A protest was staged by blocking the Colombo-Negombo main road in Jayala demanding diesel. Police had intervened after the protesters obstructed some fuel buses passing through the area. A protest demanding diesel was also held for about 2 hours by obstructing the Hatton-Bhagawantalawa main road from Hatton. The Hatton police took steps to disperse the protesters. President's Counsel Ali Sabri, who was appointed as the Minister of Finance yesterday, resigned from his position today. In a letter to President Gotabaya Rajapaksa, Sabri said he accepted the post of Finance Minister only as an interim measure until a sustainable solution was found. The letter added that fresh and proactive unconventional steps, such as appointing a new Finance Minister, are needed to navigate this crisis. The former minister noted that he was willing to resign from his parliamentary seat if the President wishes to appoint a person outside Parliament to handle this situation. In the meantime, the selling price of the US dollar rose to 310 rupees in commercial banks today. The central bank's exchange rate of the US dollar was 303 rupees. The International Monetary Fund says it is monitoring the political and economic developments in Sri Lanka very closely. The IMF has said that they are looking forward to discussions during the visit of the newly appointed finance minister to Washington later this month. Human Rights Watch says any International Monetary Fund program in Sri Lanka should protect the rights of low-income people and address corruption and obstacles to the rule of law. It added that the IMF and the Sri Lankan government should come to an agreement that supports people's ability to afford life necessities and addresses the problems underlying the current crisis. Meanwhile, Dr. Nandalal Veerasinghe has accepted an offer to take up the post of Central Bank Governor. He is currently residing in Australia. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs has decided to temporarily shut down Sri Lanka's embassies in Oslo in Norway and Baghdad in Iraq and the Consulate General in Sydney, Australia from April 30th. The Foreign Ministry said the decision was made as part of its efforts to restructure Sri Lanka's diplomatic representation overseas in the context of the economic situation and foreign currency constraints in the country.
It's time for another commercial break. Do stay tuned.
Tech Bus, launched to increase the tech know-how of Sri Lankan students, concludes on a successful note. Organized by SLIT Institute.
Tech Bus.
Main sponsor.
SLIT Knowledge University, challenging convention and redefining education.
Meanwhile, a protest was held opposite the
tourism! Save tourism! Save tourism!
Stakeholders of the tourism and hospitality industry participated in the protest opposite the Sri Lanka Tourism Development Authority.
Save Sri Lanka!
They held placards urging the government to provide solutions to the mounting issues in the country and also protect the Tourism Act.
We want just to do our work, and what we want is to everybody united and try to solve the problem peacefully with no violence. But we need to work. We need to save Sri Lanka, and the tourism will help.
We are only here because we have been in the tourist industry for many, many years. And this is the first time that tourism has been brought on its knees. Hotels are suffering. Tour operators are suffering. Everybody in the industry that employs nearly 2 million people are suffering.
Sri Lankans are continuing to organize protests overseas. They are demanding solutions to the crisis that has affected Sri Lanka.
A demonstration was organized opposite the Sri Lankan embassy in Washington, D.C. today. Protests were also held near the Ohio State University and the Times Square in New York. Protesters also gathered in Boston today.
Right now, our people of our beautiful island have been brought to their knees, literally with no food and their health and their lives at stake. But what's worse is that their freedom of expression, their right to protest and hold their government accountable has been taken away from them.
We need our country back. We need our country clean. We need to save a country for the generation to come. And we always need a country to go back and see. This is to show our heritage.
In Canada, protests were organized in Toronto, Montreal and British Columbia province. Another demonstration was organized in Canada's city of Red Deer as well.
Archbishop of Colombo, His Eminence Malcolm Cardinal Ranjit, led a special mass at the Archbishop's house in Colombo today. Bishops and sisters of the Christian community marched towards the Borella Junction and held a silent protest after returning to the Archbishop's house.
There are several concerns that the people are raising at the moment. They are demanding the president to resign. They are calling on the 225 MPs to resign. They are demanding for the stolen wealth to be returned. The government doesn't hold the people's mandate anymore. Believing that they have the mandate of 6.9 million people is a joke. We are demanding the government to listen to the people's voice.
At last the nation has awakened from its slumber. Now we have realized that we have been deceived, left, right and center. But over the decades, this country has been ruined and robbed, especially by the corrupt political leaders. For the first time in our history, everyone is crying out that the leadership steps down.
The Lawyers for the People Association held a protest opposite the Halsdorf Courts complex today. The protesters marched towards the Attorney General's department and met with Additional Solicitor General Chaitya Gunasekara.
The Attorney General has withdrawn 29 court cases recently. Were you influenced in any way? Will you file those cases again? Or will more court cases against the Rajapakshas be withdrawn? All the criminals with allegations are fleeing the country. Bar them from leaving the country. Will you at least make a special request now, considering the court cases?
The protesters then engaged in a demonstration near the Upper Courts complex. The Kandy Lawyers Association engaged in a protest opposite the Kandy Court complex this afternoon. A protest was also organized by the Kurunegala Lawyers Association this afternoon. Lawyers organized protests across the island today.
"14 parliamentarians of the Sri Lanka Freedom Party, led by party chairman Maithripala Sirisena, met with President Gotabaya Rajapaksa this evening. When the president inquired from the SLFP as to why the party would act independently, the SLFP has pointed out that it does not agree with the conduct of the government. The SLFP has reiterated that they will not change their decision and will continue to be independent in Parliament. US President Joe Biden has called for Russian President Vladimir Putin to be tried for war crimes as evidence emerges of atrocities allegedly committed by Russian forces in Ukraine.
There is mounting international anger over the alleged killing of civilians in Bucha, a town near the capital Kyiv. Biden said, quote-unquote, "This guy is brutal," adding that he believes Putin is a war criminal. Without evidence, Russia said images of atrocities had been staged by Ukraine. US officials say they are supporting a team of international prosecutors heading to Bucha to collect evidence. The Ukrainian government has started a war crimes investigation after it said the bodies of 410 civilians had been found in areas around Kyiv. Some were discovered in mass graves, while others had their hands tied and had apparently been shot at close range. Officials in Kyiv also accused Russian forces of killing a village head, her husband and her son in a village for aiding Ukrainian troops in the area.
These are challenging times, and life can be a struggle for many Sri Lankans. But when the people stand for the people, there's always hope.
Ordinary Sri Lankans are facing extraordinary times. But just over the past few months, Gammadam, together with you, the people, have been able to change lives and bring hope to many thousands of Sri Lankans. Here's a recap of our most recent projects. The year began with the completion of a rural road in the village of Galidanda in Balimada. The Nelumvilla village in Anuradhapura celebrated Independence Day along with Gammadda in February, while also celebrating freedom from thirst with a brand new water purification plant. Also in February, Gammadda constructed a home for an impoverished family in Valigama Mathara. The people of Mahakatuvara Galavava in Anuradhapura worked hard together with Gammadda to complete a water purification plant that will serve not just this village but many others as well. Wild elephants destroyed the home of a young family in Hasalaka, Kandy, but Gammadda stepped in and was able to build them a brand new home with the support of kind-hearted donors. The villagers of Kristavakulam in Vaunia will not have to endure untold hardships just to get clean water. They now have an RO machine that provides hundreds of liters of life-giving pure water every day. The village is much safer with newly installed street lamps. Another water purification plant is being installed to support the people of Kohombadigana in Sellakataragama, while a clean water project in Kandahindigama, Ampara was handed over to the people in March. This is what the people have made possible in just the first few months of this year. Gammadda is you, and together we are committed to building a better Sri Lanka and a brighter tomorrow, leaving no one behind.
That's all the news for tonight. Thank you very much for joining us. Do take care and good night.